Jaya Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivara Dhari Jaya Girivara Dhari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivara Dhari Jaya Girivara Dhari Okay. Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vrajana Ranjana Jaya Yashoda Nandana Jaya Vrajana Ranjana Jaya Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravanachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jai Jai Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Shada Shri Śrīmad His Divine Grace Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki ISKCON BBT Founder-Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Ashtottara Shada Shri Śrīmad Bhaktivedanta Thakur Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki Ananda Kodi Vaishnavvrinda ki Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki Grandharaj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki Jai Nitai Gaura Premanande. All glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to assembled devotees, all glories to Shri Guru and Gaur, and all glories to Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We are reading from Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 25, entitled The Characteristics of King Puranjana, verse number 16. Sabha Chattvararadhyabhir Akridayantanaparnaihi Chaityadhvaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi Sabha Chattvararadhyabhir Akridayantanaparnaihi Chaityadhvaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi Sabha Chattvararadhyabhir Akridayatanapanaihi Chaityadhvaja Patakabhir Yuktam Vidruma Vedibhi. Mataji. Sabha, assembly houses, Chatvara, squares, Radhyabhi, by streets, Akrida Ayatana, gambling houses, Apanaihi, by shops, Chaitya, resting places, Dhvajapatagabhi, with flags and festoons, Yuktam, decorated, Vidruma, without trees, Vedibhihi, with platforms. Translation: in that city, there were many assembly houses, street crossings, streets, restaurants, gambling houses, markets, resting places, flags, festoons, and beautiful parks. All these surrounded the city. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. In this way, the capital is described. In the capital, there are assembly houses and many squares, many street crossings, avenues and streets, many gambling places, markets and places of rest, all decorated with flags and festoons. The squares are surrounded with railing and are devoid of trees. The heart of the body can be compared to the assembly house, for the living entity is within the heart along with the Paramatma, as stated in Bhagavad Gita 15:15. Sarvasya chaham hridi sannivishto matta smriti jnanam apohanam cha. The heart is the center of all remembrance, forgetfulness, and deliberation. In the body of the eyes, ears, and nose are different places of attraction for sense enjoyment, and the streets for going hither and thither may be compared to different types of air blowing within the body. The yogic process for controlling the air within the body and the different nerves is called Sushumna, the path of liberation. The body is also a resting place because when the living entity becomes fatigued, he takes rest within the body. The palms and the soles of the feet are compared to flags and festoons. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So which pastime are we discussing? The pastime of King Puranjana. This is a very brilliant allegory that is given by Narada Muni in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. So in today's class, we will look into this type of presentation from a preacher's perspective. We'll try to see the brilliance of this allegory, and also we will look into practical application. In Vedic writing, there is always a logic, very clear logic in presenting the concepts. For example, the general method of writing in the Vedic scriptures is known as Panchanga Nyaya, or even speaking is based on Panchanga Nyaya. Panchanga Nyaya means the five-limbed logic. 5 aspects are there to any logical presentation. So initially, there is a thesis, what we need to present, it is presented. Then, second part is explanation with examples. So explanation, that is the second. And examples, because that can actually explain the concepts which are already been presented. So here also we can see in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, there are many examples and even allegories to elaborate on the concepts that are presented for our understanding. So here is a whole few chapters of allegory to explain the situation of conditioned living entity in this material world. After that, after presenting examples, then the author should present the possible doubts of the audience. It means the speaker or the author must know the conditionings of the audience. Then you should present, okay, what are the possible questions, possible doubts that can arise in the mind of the audience, and then address those with sufficient examples and then conclude. So this is considered a logical presentation. So generally in Vedic writings, they use Panchanga Nyaya. Similarly, even speaking, primarily it's speaking. So there can be slight difference to the order. For example, in a typical Vedic presentation, a guru speaks, and the next, so guru is presenting a thesis, then the next step is disciples are asking questions. So the next stage is questioning, doubts. Then it will be further explained. So there could be some differences to the sequence, but the content is the same. So here, Narada Muni is employing these allegories to explain our situation. And who is he speaking to? Prajna Bharashit, because he is so attached to fruitive activities and Vedic sacrifices and killing animals for betterment in this world and the next. So Narada Muni wanted to help him, to dissuade him from his activities and to encourage him on the path of liberation. So in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam has other allegories also. Even Narada Muni uses other allegories in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Can anyone remember any other allegory used by Narada Muni? No? Narada Muni speaking to Hariashwas, actually. The two sets of brothers, the two sets of sons of Daksha. In the first batch, I think 10,000 of them, Narada Muni again uses an allegory. Again, a city, there's a hole to the city, one is entrapped in that city, one cannot get out from the city. And Hariashwas were very intelligent, so after hearing this allegory, they understood. They decided, okay, we are not going to get into Grihastha Ashram, we are going to be Brahmacharis, perform austerities, and then come back to Godhead. So Narada Muni uses this kind of allegories here and there in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. And of course, as you know, Narada Muni is a very dynamic preacher and he employs different approaches in delivering his messages. Right?
There is a goat analogy also somewhere?
Yeah, there is a goat analogy is there as well. I think it's in the 9th canto. Yeah, there's a goat analogy. There are many analogies are there, allegories are there, the complete stories are there. So yes, these are required because these are not Upanishadic writings. In Upanishads, just the tattva is presented, just the philosophy is presented, and that's about it. Not necessary to have so many examples. There are some examples, of course. But primarily it is philosophy based. And the tattva is presented, and that's about it. Whereas in Puranas, it is explained in details because we are not so intelligent just to accept philosophy and live by that. So we need to hear some examples, we need to hear some stories, we need to hear some allegories. Then that will click. Then we think, okay, they can do that. Okay, probably we should also do that. So even though the philosophy may not click, but when we see how the suffering is taking place, then we think, okay, maybe I should take some action to my life. In that way, there are many stories and allegories. When we see from a perspective of a preacher, we can see that a preacher has to be sensitive to the audience. So being sensitive to the audience is being part of Mahaprabhu's mission, to be in tune with Mahaprabhu's mission. And that is the mode of compassion. It is not just speak whatever we want to. So the first challenge for a speaker is what to speak and who to speak, right? What to speak. Can you speak everything to anyone? Probably that won't be very effective, even though everything is Krishna Katha. That is the approach of a neophyte preacher, because we have learnt with enthusiasm so many things. And if you get someone, in 10 minutes give the whole Śrīmad Bhāgavatam class, everything, surrender, everything is included in that 10 minutes. So one wants to give everything and it doesn't work very well. I remember explaining to the new people the whole creation chart from top to bottom. In about 15 minutes or half an hour, I explained the whole creation chart. All the different lokas, all different methods, all different demigods. People get bewildered. People think, what's really going on? It's just beyond our approach. And think about if you have a Western audience and going to speak about all different expansions of Vishnu and how different forms of Vishnu have different weapons in different hands. Accordingly, they have different names. If we get into this kind of details, people think, this is really crazy. This is just stories. It has no meaning. So one has to be quite careful what you're going to present to different audiences. Similarly, we cannot just call everyone, cat and dogs, cats, dogs, animals, go Hare. We cannot just use heavy words without realization and without compassion. That's why Mahaprabhu set the example of how to preach, what to speak. One of the methods that he employed in preaching was silence. He preached even through silence. When was that? Exactly, Sarvabhauma in Jagannath Puri. Sarvabhauma, he started speaking Vedanta philosophy, Shankaracharya's explanation, and Mahaprabhu started listening. About 7 days or so. He didn't speak a word. Morning till evening, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya was speaking with this Vedanta philosophy and Mahaprabhu was just listening. He didn't say anything. He just listened, kept listening. Because he was doing it as a service. He was giving an opportunity for Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to speak. And when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked, I have been speaking this for 7 days. You didn't speak a word. I don't know whether you understood something or you didn't understand anything. Why this silence? You speak something. Then Mahaprabhu started speaking. He said, I know Vedanta philosophy as narrated by Vyasadeva, but your explanations are just like clouds which are covering the bright sun of Vyasadeva's explanation. Then he explained how and why and all the details. So Mahaprabhu started speaking only when Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked the question. He asked to speak, okay, then he spoke. So sometimes the best preaching is silence. As it is said, You have to preach all the time, but use words whenever is needed. Otherwise, silence. Through our actions, we have to preach. Otherwise, words do not carry much meaning. So here, good example. Similarly, another method employed by Mahaprabhu was just chanting and dancing. Just chanting and dancing. When he roamed around in South India, he didn't speak much philosophy. Hardly he spoke any philosophy. He spoke philosophy to a few people, few brahmanas here and there. But otherwise, he will go, the whole team would go to the center of a village. There will be a big chanting party. Many mridangas, kartals, everyone is chanting. And Mahaprabhu and all the associates would chant and dance in front of everyone. The whole villagers would assemble. And they would see Mahaprabhu chanting and dancing. Mahaprabhu is chanting and dancing. Lord Nityananda Prabhu is there. All the associates are there. And just by seeing that and hearing the holy names of Krishna, all of them became devotees. And so those devotees who have now become pure devotees, prema bhaktas, they also became devotees. Those who witnessed, the devotees who became devotees just now, they also became devotees. So this was just like a free flow of pure devotion, prema bhakti. So this was preaching done by Mahaprabhu. Then of course, whenever needed, Mahaprabhu spoke philosophy, right? So Prakashananda Saraswati, he didn't speak philosophy initially, but when he was asked, then he explained the full philosophy with full reasonings. So this is preaching. It's not to give everything, but whenever is required, right? Similarly in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, we can see Vidura, when he returned to Hastinapur to deliver his brother Dhritarashtra, who was very much attached, he was using cutting words. He was telling, you are just like a dog. You are just like a dog. Very strong words was used by Vidura. And he was saying, Bhimasen, look at Bhimasen. He has killed all of your sons. And now you are eating the remnants of food that have been eaten by Bhimasen. Can you imagine? Such a strong word, because he had to shake him up and ask him, get out from here. Do something else. Don't be attached to this kingly opulences. Time has gone by. Now is the time for austerity and trying to go back home, back to Godhead. But at least he could get to the platform of liberation. So this is preaching. I remember the story of Badrinarayan Maharaj. He's right. His grandfather, Badrinarayan Maharaj, he was not a sannyasi then, so he was Badrinarayan Prabhu. His grandfather was passing away, I assume. And he thought, I should go and preach to him. So he was still conscious. So he was lying on his bed. And Maharaj went there and he thought, what should I read now? So he thought, okay, my grandfather was very much attached to family life. He was an enjoyer and he doesn't want to die. So he thought, I will start reading this section of Bhagavatam that can give a lot of detachment. What is that section? That is a section of Vidura instructing Dhritarashtra. So he took Bhagavatam and he started reading. And his grandfather was not alone. All the relatives were surrounding his grandfather. So as the story is progressing, as the instructions are progressing, everyone is becoming upset. Because they were all started really feeling, what is this, person, he's a grandson, young boy, what is he speaking, like so heavy, detachment, you are just eating the remnants, living like a dog, just going on. So at one point, all the relatives said, you had to stop preaching. Stop this. So at that point, his grandfather, with a very mild voice, he told, you are the only one who is telling the truth. All my relatives, they never told me the truth, but you are the only one telling me the truth. So different techniques have to be applied at different places. Here, Narada Muni is using different techniques. Here, he wants to incite some detachment in the heart of Prajna Bharashit, so he's using a very strong, powerful story. We'll speak about that after that. And he was quite successful in that. So that is the point. He was very successful. We can see from the result. I remember using this pastime, this Puranjana pastime, while speaking to Western audience in a different format. As inspired from Hridayananda Maharaj, I changed the names. Puranjana, I converted the name to something else. John Urban. So Puranjana became Urban because Puram is urban, city. Jana became John. So it was good. So if I tell them, they are pretty much upcoming Western people. So I didn't want to tell the whole story with the Sanskrit names. It was a little too much for them. So I told, okay, it's a story of John Urban, who wants to travel throughout the world, and ask them, where do you like to travel? Because all these people, youngsters, they all want to travel. So they will tell, I want this, I want to see that, I want the mountain, I want the sea, I want to go here, I want to do hiking. So then they can relate to this. This is how the living entities are. We are traveling from species to species in different planets, trying to enjoy material facilities, trying to eat different things. Prahlad Maharaj says, it's a very interesting word used by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto, 9th chapter of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. He's saying, Ashana bhita bhitam. He's saying, the living entities are wandering in different forms, in different species. So they are bhita bhitam. They are in complete fear. Which the reality is in complete fear. And then he says, ashanam. And on top of that, eating all different kinds of things. So he's actually particularly addressing even eating. So all different kinds of things in different species of life. This is material existence. We have traveled enough. We have eaten enough. All different kinds of stuff. So now, here, this allegory is very brilliant. We'll get to that soon. So what to speak, we had to be very careful. We had to understand the audience. We had to speak accordingly. And how to speak. Srila Prabhupada is a very wonderful example how to speak. He didn't just speak anything. His mood was perfect. One time in Vrindavan, many Goswamis came along and started practically criticizing Srila Prabhupada on his face. Why did you give this Brahmin initiation to all these Westerners? Why are you allowing them to worship the deities, the saligrams? You are spoiling the Vedic culture. They're just pouring on to Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada was there in Vrindavan. His disciples were there around. And disciples were obviously getting very agitated, edgy, want to speak something, want to stop. Prabhupada was sitting calm and silent. He didn't say anything. When they poured out everything from their heart, Srila Prabhupada said, what can I do? I am simply trying to follow the instructions of my Guru Maharaj. That's all. And all of them became silent. They paid respects and they went away. They didn't speak anything. So this is preaching. Somebody is trying to attack. Prabhupada didn't speak anything. Just said, I am simply trying to follow my Guru Maharaj's instruction. And that's it. Very effective. So this is how to speak, because that shows the mood of Srila Prabhupada. In Switzerland, Prabhupada was explaining about different classes. He was telling first class is Brahmanas, second class Kshatriyas, third class Vaishyas, fourth class Shudras. He was explaining class according to the Varnas. Then one reporter asked, so are you the first class person? Prabhupada initially it said, the devotees who were there, Prabhupada was a bit surprised, seeing the mood, the intent behind the question. So Prabhupada was surprised to hear that. So Prabhupada said, no, I am fifth class. I'm serving first, second, third, and fourth classes. So this is actually showing how to present the real mood of humility. Mahaprabhu employed humility. He took a humble position when he was in front of Prakashananda Saraswati and thousands of Mayavadi sannyasis. He just sat on the ground where they were washing the feet, dirty place. However, he produces effulgence, the Brahmajyoti. And they got attracted and they said, you come. So they got an opportunity to do some service to Mahaprabhu. Prakashananda Saraswati, by his hand, he took him to the raised platform. So since he did some service, Mahaprabhu could give some mercy. And then converted all of them to Vaishnavas. So there are many aspects of there. The desire of the devotees, Mahaprabhu's humble mood. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he says, what is the mood? Dande nidhaya trinakam patayo nipatya kakushakam krutva cha yadaham brahmimi. He says, what should be the mood? Dande nidhaya trinakam. Means it in the Vedic culture, it's considered very, very humble position to take a straw of grass and place between the teeth, showing the humility. I am even lower than a blade of grass. So dande nidhaya trinakam patayo nipatya, and falling down, paying obeisances. This is the mood of a preacher, it's mentioned. Padayo nipatya kakushakam krutva. Kakushakam means flattery. If you want to preach, one technique is flattery. Okay, you are such a nice person. Which is good, actually. I can remember when devotees preached to me, they were employing these techniques. you are such a nice person. Oh, you know so many things. We use that, right? So it is good. Because they become more open. They think, oh, you're a friend, which is true. We are friends. Kakushagam krutvacha yadaham bravimi. Then what he speaks? Sakalameva vihaya durat. You are very qualified when you have that approach. When people are ready to listen, you have everything, you are very qualified, you have so many material qualifications. Now, please give up everything. And you surrender into the feet of Lord Chaitanya. But this is accompanied by the strong mood of humility. So this is we need to understand. It's not just the fun part of, just telling, surrender, give up everything, surrender. Not like that, but there is a strong mood of humility in this. That's the way great devotees preach, they give. So here also Narada Muni also, he uses different techniques to present Krishna consciousness to different people. And where to speak? Yes, of course, it has to be the right circumstances to preach. Even Narada Muni speaking to Shavalashwas, he's preaching to Shavalashwas, That is a very right, and Shavalashwas at the right time. We can see in the 6th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. They understood their father, Daksha, has now sent them to perform austerities because they can produce good children only after tapa, only after austerities. This is the principle. So Daksha, he knew Vedic scriptures, even though he was attached to fruity results and he wanted to enjoy, still he was using Vedic scriptures. He was a karmakandi person. So he knew, he understood, he told the first 10,000 sons, you go perform austerity, you worship the Lord, then you can have good progenies. So they were out from the palace. They were walking towards the north. Then Narada Muni understood, this is the right time. See, where to speak. Narada Muni understood where to speak. Then told this allegorical story about the city. Once it is trapped, only one hole to come out, one cannot get out, one will be attached in the whole story, allegory he tells. After that they were very intelligent. It said Harivashas were very intelligent, they understood. There's no point accepting Grihastha Ashram. Okay, let's become renunciants and go back home, back to Godhead. They did that. And next batch came, Shalyashas. There also he told the same thing. Your brothers are gone. There he didn't tell any stories. He told, your brothers have gone to the path of perfection, so why don't you follow? They said, okay, our brothers have gone to that path, let's also go. So this he knew. Because if you are away from the family, that's the best time to give Krishna consciousness. Many times, right? Especially family bindings can be very strong. And one is in one's own comfort zones. I became a devotee here. It was much easier to become a devotee here. Because then there is not much family bindings, there is not many people talking this and that. No, it's much easier. So Narada Muni knew and he used the right way to preach. Who to speak? Who to speak? Speak to the people who are ready to listen. If you want to give philosophy, make sure that they are in a condition, in a state of consciousness where they are ready to listen. Srila Prabhupada writes in the 1st canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, realization means one can present the Krishna conscious philosophy in the right way that it is interesting for the relevant audience. That is called realization. That's Prabhupada's definition of realization with respect to preaching. So we have to be careful, when we are speaking, it's relatable to them. Otherwise, what's the point? We cannot just show off our knowledge. We may know so many things. This is not to give a summary of whatever we have studied so far in Krishna consciousness, present in half an hour. That's not the purpose. So here, Narada Muni employs the right techniques. And why to speak? We have to understand we are speaking to help, to give Krishna consciousness, to help them. No other motives. So in this particular analogy, it is very brilliant because Narada Muni covers practically everything. The complicated philosophy is encapsulated in this allegory. So we can see Puranjana. Who is the Puranjana? Living entity means the soul, right? The soul, the living entity, us, the soul. And soon there will be many wives wives, maid servants, so many things are going to come. I'm not going to explain everything now, just presenting. Wife is going to come, a queen for Puranjana, and there are many maid servants, and there are bodyguards, the principal assistants, the city of 9 gates, right? And the 9 gates, there are, how many gates are in this air, and how many are subterranean? Yeah, 2 subterranean and 7 in the air. Like that, everything is presented. This is very clearly speaking about the body. And then respects, everyone is giving respects to Puranjana. Everyone is giving respects to Puranjana. We can see that. And how the relationship between him, even though they were very attached, and now after some time the relationship is slowly fading. And he goes out of his relationship. Then he comes back. And he tries to patch up with his wife and move on. Have children. Becomes very attached to the children. And he lives exactly according to the Vedic principles with his wife. In harmony. Then all the soldiers who were protecting him, all the servants, he could notice that nobody is now listening anymore. Nobody is listening anymore. He could see something is happening. He could see that all these 9 gates are not functioning very well. You see? It is employed in such a beautiful fashion. And finally there are this Chandavega. The soldiers are coming inside through different gates and attacking the city and capturing Puranjana, taking him out. And finally the city is being burnt into ashes. Can you see how everything has a meaning and everything is employed very well in this pastime? And it doesn't just stop there. It is such a brilliant allegory that according to the desire as it is given in this purport and in the previous one, the desires, the heart becomes the center of all planning for material enjoyment. It's presented in here also. The heart of the body can be compared to the assembly house for the living entity is within the heart along with the Paramatma. How the Paramatma is witnessing the desires of the living entity. And Puranjana, now living in this body, in a male body, because of his attachment to his queen, female, he gets in the body of a female. Because he wants to look after a female body, then if that female body becomes own body, then it's much easier. You don't need to go search for a female to look after because it's own body. One can look after the body, the emotions, etc. So, see the subtleties of this allegory and how very well is related to all aspects of Krishna conscious philosophy, which is presented in many cantos of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. You can see in the 7th canto of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, even Hiranyakashipu gives a very detailed description about the subtle body when he was preaching to his sister-in-law who was lamenting because of the death of Hiranyaksha. Very subtle, very complicated philosophy. And many places, even in the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, there is complicated philosophy of the relation between the subtle body, the gross body, the desires, etc. Everything is included in this pastime. That's why the city had many assembly houses, street crossings, restaurants, gambling houses. These are all different facilities for enjoyment for the living entity. And here the palms and the soles of the feet are compared to the flags and the festoons. These are all different facilities for enjoyment for the living entity. And still a living entity is not satisfied. So that is a conclusion. Is whatever facility one has, everything is taken away. Prahlad Maharaj, he prays to Narasimhadev. He says, Trastosmiham kripana varsala dusahogra. Trastosmiham, I am frightened. Why? Trastosmiham means, first, this is a very strong state. Trastosmiham, I am frightened by material existence. Dusahogra, it is intolerable. Do we feel that? Probably not. Sometimes. Sometimes we feel, but not all the time. Here, think about Prahlad Maharaj. He's a prince. His father is offering all the 3 worlds. He cannot give Brahma's kingdom. He can give everything else. Because not just the material facilities, but the lords of the material facilities, all the demigods were under his control. Anyone can pay obeisances to Hiranyakashipu, so to Prahlad Maharaj. It is mentioned, even Bhrigu and Narada had to glorify Hiranyakashipu. Think about that. So that was the power of Hiranyakashipu. It was pastime's sake. They were not obliged, at least Narada Muni was not obliged. It was mentioned, Hiranyakashipu was actually more powerful than Bhrigu Muni. Even Bhrigu couldn't perform so much austerities as Hiranyakashipu. That's why Brahma got impressed. Even my other son, Bhrigu is Brahma's son, even my other son couldn't perform so much of austerities, so I had to give whatever you asked for. So Prahlad Maharaj says, Trastosmyaham, Kripana Vatsala Dussahogra. He addresses Narasimhadev as Kripana Vatsala. You are very dear to Kripanas. Who are Kripanas? We are Kripanas. Fallen souls who are miserly, because even though we have the facility to make spiritual progress, we may not utilize it completely. And then he says, Samsara Chakra Kadanat Grasatam Pranita. Samsara Chakra Kadanat. Samsara Chakra, the cycle of repeated birth and death. Kadana means the pain. The pain of repeated birth and death. Grasatam. Grasata means devouring. Pranita, I have fallen into this material existence, and it is just like a cycle, it is continuing. How? Baddha Sokarma Bhi. How are we devoured? Baddha Sokarma Bhi, by our own karmas. Then he calls Ushattama Tenkri Moolam. Ushattama, oh Lord, Ushattama, who, oh great one, Tenkri Moolam, your lotus feet, Te Ankri Moolam. Prito Apavarga Sharanam Hoyase Kadanu. He says, your lotus feet is Apavarga Sharanam, because your lotus feet is Apavarga Sharanam. Apavarga means the path of liberation. Sharanam, your lotus feet are the shelter for liberation. And Prahlad Maharaj says, when are you going to call me to your lotus feet? Which is Apavarga Sharanam. Vishwanath Thakur says that the service he wants to do is, when are you going to invite me, engage me in massaging your lotus feet? So that is the mood of Prahlad Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj is telling, he wants to massage the feet of Narasimhadev is telling, you come. When are you going to call me? Okay, come and massage my feet. This is Prahlad Maharaj. So this is not a nice place. So Narada Muni is going to tell the same thing. And practically applying these principles given in this particular chapter and the following chapters in the allegorical story of King Puranjana, it's very powerful. We learn how our mind is functioning. We understand and how these desires are popping up in our mind, and how our intelligence get polluted. Intelligence, the next door neighbor to the soul, very high. How the intelligence is polluted, and once the intelligence is polluted, then we want to fulfill all the material desires which are proposed by the mind. So how to control that? This pastime is very powerful in that respect. And finally, how everything is being taken away, how the time takes away everything. Uruvikramena kala manopiniyamam nijabhritya parshyam. Prahlad is saying. Uruvikramena kalatmana. Uruvikramena means most powerful. Kalatmana, the powerful time. We can see in this pastime how the powerful time is taking away everything. So as it's mentioned, this verse and purport, all these different forms of enjoyment will be taken away just by time. We don't need to do anything, just by the time factor. So that is the purpose of this pastime, to give us the understanding of the temporary nature of this world, and to give us detachment, and to help us to move forward in our devotional life. So we are very, very fortunate to go through this pastime in detail in the coming classes, because then we can really see the functioning of our mind, of our subtle body especially, and then we can see this applicable even in chanting. This story can be used in chanting. How can we control the mind, even useful for chanting. So it is very, very powerful. So I see, is there any questions or any comments or any questions or anything? Yes, Prabhu.
Can you tell the story of John
It will be given in the further chapters, or at this chapter, as the further chapters of Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. Urban. Yeah. Puranjana.
What's the relationship between the, it says here at the end of that purport that the heart is the center for
Yes.
planning, but other places we read the mind is where it happens as well. So what's the relationship
Yes.
between the mind and the heart?
Yeah. Very good question.
Yes, enjoyment.
Yeah, very good question. So here it is mentioned, I also read, the heart of the body can be compared to the assembly house, and in the previous purport, last sentence, the heart becomes a center for planning for material enjoyment.
So what's the relationship
Yeah.
between the heart and the mind?
Yes, what's the relationship between the heart and the mind? First of all, we need to understand what do we mean by heart, right? Heart, one meaning of heart is it's a sense organ. It is pumping the blood. So it is very gross. It is a sense organ. Second meaning of heart is the depth of our consciousness. Depth of our consciousness. Why it is considered the consciousness, the depth of our consciousness? Because the soul is the resting place, the heart is the resting place for the soul. So the consciousness is emanating from the soul and it is present, it is coming through the heart. So in that way, the depth of our consciousness is compared to the heart. When you use heart, it is our depth of our consciousness. Next, what is mind? Of course, mind is not part of the heart. Mind is not part of the consciousness also, right? Because consciousness is symptom of the soul, consciousness is a symptom of the soul, whereas mind is a subtle matter, right? Mind is subtle matter. Whereas consciousness can be considered spiritual, if it is spiritual. Otherwise, if it's through false ego when it comes, it is material consciousness, chitta. However, so there is here mind and here is this consciousness. What's the relationship? Yes, mind is the place where different thoughts comes, because that is the nature of the mind. We have, according to the scientists, we have about 60,000 thoughts per day. But the 60,000 thoughts we cannot consider they are desires. When they become desires when we, the living entity, now through contaminated consciousness, identifies with those desires, with those thoughts, and we think, okay, that is me, that's what I want. That is the time become my desires. Otherwise, there are 60,000 thoughts, but I cannot say I have 60,000 desires at this point. But I may have 1, 2, or 3, or 4, or few number which is coming to the forefront. That is because the consciousness, the contaminated consciousness, is identifying with that particular thought, and that is turning into desires. So, in other words, mind is the repository of all different thoughts, and of course, the desires are also present in the mind, but it is through the contaminated consciousness. So the soul, the actual consciousness which is pure, because of false ego, because of the false identification, now it is contaminated, which is the chitta. And chitta is what is going to empower the mind. Because if chitta is not present, then the mind cannot function. It is just dead matter. Subtle matter, but it is dead. So the chitta is actually animating the mind, and then we have so many desires. So many thoughts becomes desires. So the heart is more subtler, more deeper than the mind in that sense, because it is referring to chitta in this context, the contaminated consciousness. Is that clear? Yeah.
So the purification that we do will purify those
Exactly.
thoughts and those desires.
Yes. What happens in the cycle of our purification through Krishna consciousness, it is addressing the root. So the root is, I am the enjoyer, I am the controller, I am the body, I am the mind, everything is for my enjoyment. And in Krishna consciousness, what are we trying to do? We are doing exactly the opposite. Okay, I want to serve Krishna, I want to glorify Krishna. So here we are employing exactly the opposite means, directing ourselves. So the consciousness we are actually directing towards Krishna. In that way, there is a purification right from the root. So then we can see, of course, we are employing our body. Grossly we are employing first. We may not feel like serving, but it has the in-depth, there is that subtle consciousness is there where we are saying, okay, I am servant of Krishna. So when we work in that cycle, then we get purified like that. Yes, Prabhu.
You just said that the thoughts are related to the mind.
Yeah.
But normally when you say thinking, you talk about intelligence.
The mind, intelligence, false ego, they are different aspects of the subtle body. So sometimes when you talk about the subtle body, mana is used to refer to intelligence also. The whole subtle body can be addressed as mana. Sometimes subtle body can be addressed as lingas, as atma. So there are different aspects. It is not like a territory. Body we can say, we can categorize our senses. Okay, this is my this sense, that, etc. But when it comes to subtle body, it's not like a categories, Functionally they are separate, but it's not like a geographical locations, for the mind. It's a subtle body. It functions as the intelligence, it functions as the mind. So they are functional categories, not really a, physical categories. So, okay. I think it's 9 o'clock. Yes, bro.
I was wondering, intuition, would that come from consciousness or from the heart, from the soul?
Yeah.
Sometimes it could come from intelligence, mind.
Yeah, the real intuition in its perfect stage, okay, in the perfect stage, intuitions are given by the Lord. As in the same purport, it's talked about the Atma and the Paramatma, the soul and the super soul. Both are present in the heart. So the super soul can give intuition to the soul. But that always takes place in the perfect state. A manifested example of that is Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. There, the super soul has come out, has manifested as Krishna himself, and he's instructing Arjuna, okay, you do that, you do this, giving the whole Bhagavad Gita. So that is a perfect stage. So it doesn't look like intuition, but it looks like instruction. But that's a perfect stage of that intuition, manifesting outside. However, as we get purified, Krishna can tell, okay, maybe this is right, this is not right. However, we don't take it for granted. Is it just a product of mind or the subtle body or the product of Krishna? We need to verify. That's why we have our spiritual teachers, the devotees, the scriptures. We just verify through these agencies and then we confirm, okay, this is right or not. Otherwise, one can go really mental. There are many people who want all intuition and then finally become very mental, just do whatever they want. Oh, Krishna told me to do this, Krishna told me to do that thing. It doesn't work. Okay? Yeah. Thank you. Oh, Mother, yes, question, yeah.
The consciousness is an expression of the soul.
Yeah.
He said that the soul is always pure.
Soul is always pure.
So how we can understand that the consciousness can be contaminated?
Yeah. So consciousness is the energy of the soul. Okay, it's the energy of the soul. So what happens, to give a simple example, we have this light globes here. The light emanating from this light globes are pure and white. Assume it's a cool light, very white. And now, if we have a filter, a colored filter, the light coming through the filter can have some color depending on the filter. If it is yellow, you get the yellow light. If it is a red, you get the red light. If you have a green filter, you get the green light. Filter is, the contaminated consciousness comes because of the false ego. False ego is a filter. The soul, false ego, contaminated consciousness, and that is running through all different, the mind, intelligence, and the gross body, etc. So false ego is a filter, yeah.
I had a different variation of that question before it was asked. Like if the soul is pure and then we have these other entities like the mind, false ego, they're on their own agenda. If the soul is pure, so how did the soul become trapped with trying to find pleasure to these inferior?
Question is why or how or what is the...
How come the soul is trapped with these lower?
Philosophical answer is called avidya. Avidya, ignorance. Ignorance. So we want to enjoy. So Krishna is giving the facility to.
Because of the envy.
Yeah, that is the ultimate route.
Ignorance comes.
That's right. Yeah.
Because they can't fulfill.
Yes.
Constitutionally can't fulfill the desire.
That's right.
of Krishna. So
Yes. That's right. So it all comes to the same root of answers, which you already know. So I don't want to get into those answers much. Okay. It is very complicated if you think about it. If you try to figure out, it's really complicated. I understand. I have thought about this quite a lot, how the pure soul can be entangled. It's complicated. It's not so easy. Okay. Yeah.
Does that mean that, like, by itself it has the power to deliver, like,
No. Here is the point. Yes, it's a very good question, because whether the soul has the power to deliver by himself. No, he doesn't have the power to do by himself. It's like somebody who is tied cannot untie by oneself. One is completely tied, one is completely tied. We need the help of the Lord. Without the help of the Lord, we cannot. It's not possible. Mama maya duratya, maya metam tarantite, right? Mama maya duratya, mama evaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. My material, Krishna says, my material energy is very, very difficult to overcome. But one who surrenders unto me can easily cross over it. So we need help. That's for sure. Because otherwise, where is the knowledge? So materially, it's a very good point. Materially, in terms of unentangling ourselves, one can employ maximum the mode of goodness. There, one can be thoughtful. One could come to the platform of, look, I am a spirit soul, so I have nothing to do with the matter. So it is said by intelligence, still it is not, goodness can show the doorway actually. And there, once you have that doorway, somebody has to pull you out. That is this knowledge. That is a spiritual knowledge. That is a Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That is Krishna. That is the association of the devotees. That is prasadam. We need that. Goodness can make our mind clear. In goodness, we can see things as it is. That is, okay, I am suffering. At least one can see that. And I need some help, which is very important.
So therefore, if we've reached the highest level of Krishna consciousness that we can, how do you not pray for death every day?
How do you not?
Do not pray for death.
Why do you want to pray?
Because it's a punishment.
Living here?
Yeah.
Yeah. There are many reasons to this. One, there are some devotees who pray for death. Like King Kulashekara, he says, Krishna Todiya Padapangaja Panjaradna Deva Vishaheda Manasa Rajahamsa. He plays, okay, I am now strong and stout. My mind is functioning very well. Let me die now. Because at the old age, there will be cough, mucus, bile, and in that condition, how can I think about you? My mind is completely bewildered by this bodily condition. So let me go to your lotus feet now. So that some devotees actually shows this mood. Even Srila Prabhupada, in his final days, he was telling this. This is one of the most quoted verse in his final days. Krishna Tadiya Padapangajanta. I just want to go to Krishna. So yes, devotees do manifest this kind of mood, but at the same time, devotees wants, before that Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to stay back. If your Prabhupada asked devotees to pray for him, to Narasimhadev, oh Lord, our master hasn't completed his mission. So if you so desire, allow him to stay. So there are devotees are coming for different mission. Devotees want to preach Krishna consciousness, help others. So cannot worry about what's going on in this, to his body or her body. Cannot think like that. Want to help. So Prabhupada was in that consciousness. So he was not thinking, I just want to go back home, back to God. Then he could have stayed in Vrindavan. He didn't have to take pain of going all the way to the Western world. The devotees are in different mood. So it's not just one prayer, I want to go back. They want to see all the great devotees. They think, I am not worried about myself, but I am worried about everyone else. That's the mood of great devotees. So if one is perfect in Krishna consciousness, the natural characteristics is compassion. So one feels for others. So others' pain becomes one's own pain. Then wants to do something about it. Can you see that?
But it's then still pain.
Eh?
What's the point?
Yeah, that is called compassion. One is ready to accept pain for others. That's called compassion. It is pain.
But why don't they live forever?
Sorry?
You have to accept pain. Why not just go on forever just with pain?
They are happy to do that, but if it depends on Krishna. So there are great devotees who praise, eternally I am ready to suffer. Let other living entities be delivered, but Vasudeva Datta in Chaitanya Charitamrita, that is his prayer. He tells Mahaprabhu, I am ready to suffer eternally. Let me take all the karmas of all the living entities, let me suffer, no problem.
So then would you ask, why does God have me suffer eternally?
The thing is,
why doesn't God give me a rest?
so the devotees who are, even though they are going through suffering, that is external. Perfect devotees, even in the bodily, even within the body, they are in transcendental bliss. They are with Krishna, they are in bliss internally. Body may be going through suffering. That's called Krishna consciousness. Even though they are in this body, externally there can be suffering, but internally they are not suffering.
We'll see, it fluctuates. You can have great days when you feel very close to God, and within 24 hours.
That is our condition. That is our condition, not our. You are asking about the perfect devotees, not for them. They are always with Krishna. So body gets old, have pain, etc. So that is different. They are in tune to Krishna's pleasure. So they will do whatever required to please Krishna in Krishna's service. That's all. That is their mood.
But I'm not talking about the body. If you realise we're a soul in a body,
Yeah.
the soul wants to go back to Godhead, but I'm a prisoner of this body and these thoughts, and continually I'm in battle.
Yeah. So devotees do go back to Godhead. At the same time, current situation they utilize to help others. Getting the point? Take the example of Prabhupada.
If I was to say, yes, I get the point,
Yeah.
I couldn't be pleased with myself because it wouldn't be true for me. Because it fluctuates.
It fluctuates for...
I can't be continual all the time. I can't be one colour, many colours.
Maybe we can have a discussion after this class. 9:10, I'll talk to you after that because devotees want to share breakfast.
Sure.
Thank you. Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai.